So it's been a minute. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Samantha Souza, certified nutrition coach and expert on how to end the cycle of yo-yo dieting for good. And oh my gosh, it's been years since I've made a YouTube video on this channel. My life just really took a massive shift once kind of the performing world came back online. I've been busy in shows, doing other kinds of social media, and that has really just taken over. And while I've maintained my client list, it's been something more private and not a focus of social media really, but nothing has changed. I'm still the same girl. And you know me, if you know I'm the same girl, it's that I love a viral food challenge. You guys know me, I've been keto since 2011. So a very, very long time. It's been, wow, yeah, well, almost, 15 years. That's crazy. I love keto. I've maintained a keto low carb lifestyle. I've oscillated from carnivore to keto. And something that's come on my radar recently on social media is the advent of this hyperketosis diet, which is funny because it really has nothing to do with a ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diets are low carb, moderate protein, high fat, and what is being deemed as the hyperketosis diet is low carb, low-ish to moderate carb, low fat, extremely low fat, and high protein. A big part of it is calorie restriction because the serving sizes on a lot of these suggestions are small. We're talking like 4 ounces of protein with every meal, and you're supposed to also fast for at least 16 hours and have an 8-hour eating window. Let's head into the basic rules of the hyperketosis diet now that we know that really has nothing to do with traditional keto. This has become popular with this guy named Coach Nate on TikTok and Instagram. I don't know what kind of certifications or degrees or any qualified training he has other than doing this sort of experimental diet on himself and now teaching other people how to do it. I don't think that necessarily the diet in and of itself is horrific. I do think that it is meant for short term. So the way that the diet is structured is that it's 40 days. You fast every day with at least a 16-8 fast, meaning that you're fasted for 16 hours and you have an eating window of 8 hours. You're supposed to have 4 ounces on average of a lean protein with 3 cups of vegetables and 1 cup of fruit every day. Now, what differentiates this from traditional keto is not only the lack of fat, which is the biggest marker in my opinion, but also there's a lot of fruits on his approved lists that are extremely high on the glycemic index, which I think is interesting, which then I would say propels it with the amount of vegetables that are allowed into what I would say is a moderate carb, high protein, low fat diet, which in essence, as a certified nutritionist, kind of puts it almost into a low fat diet because traditionally you would have high carb, low fat, moderate protein, but it's another way about it really. Then what you're supposed to do is do that diet for 40 days. No oils, you can have vinegars, no nothing outside of that. It's going to be interesting. You're supposed to cook everything in chicken broth. It's going to be all about the seasonings, y'all. And then after 40 days of doing this, he touts that people can lose 30 pounds in 40 days, which to me is wild and crazy. Then after that, you're supposed to do a traditional keto diet for the remainder of the 20 days. So it's roughly a 2-month process, a phase 1 and a phase 2. And this cycle sort of is supposed to keep your hormones in balance. I at least like the fact that there's a limited time on this, so it gives your brain that structure, and then perhaps you can ease into a generic ketogenic lifestyle. You know me, I love doing these like challenges. I have a video on a beef and egg fast. I have a video on the ice cream diet. I have a video on the spam and pickle diet. I just love trying these things out for you. And in the advent of GLP-1 agonists and all these weight loss medications out there, if what Coach Nate is saying is true, and with this diet, you can lose up to 30 pounds in 40 days, that could be a cost-effective alternative to maybe implementing a GLP-1 into your life. And also you don't have to deal with any potential adverse effects from those shots that can happen. Usually people are okay, but it's not for everyone. So wouldn't it be cool to find out if we could do this? It's certainly going to be harder than if you likely took a GLP-1, but at least you're not on a medication. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm personally an advocate of the less medications, the better, but I also support people who need them. So let's see what happens. I'm going to be starting this tomorrow on May 1st. I'm going to be doing my best. I do have a friend visiting from out of town for a few days and a one-day Disney trip in May, as well as a whole week in Hawaii, where I am just telling you right now, I am not going to be doing this diet. But I feel like in the grand scheme of things, a week out of 2 months being in general off plan is not going to be a big deal. And at the very least, I'll have 3 solid weeks plus of data to share with you all. And I think that will be comprehensive. Some people have reported losing 6 to 8 pounds on average a week. I don't have a ton of weight to lose. I see a lot of people who are doing this diet are heavier than I am, but I will be reporting my weight loss every single week in a new video on this page, and I'll be vlogging the whole experience for you to follow along. So let's get started heading into week 1. So I just went shopping for this little adventure, so I thought I'd show you what I got. This was just an amazing deal, and it's kind of like meal prepped already because of the preparation. I don't think that pork is allowed on this, to be honest with you, but when I looked at the nutrition facts, I was like, why is the pork less fat and more protein? So I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go for it. And when I looked at the ingredients, there wasn't really oil in the list, so I thought this would be fine because there's a little bit that's very bottom. It's at the very bottom, and I don't even think it's in every single one. So I thought that was a steal, and I bought 2 of these, so I'm just gonna freeze one and have the other, and then it'll just be like a little meal prep, right? Isn't that genius? And then I got a ton of, I love snacking on these, and normally they're not like extremely low carb, but they're great for snacks. I also read that green beans are like the best thing on this diet, so I figured stock up on, I like frozen vegetables. I don't know about you, but to me, frozen tastes just as good a lot of the time, and at least I know that it won't go bad. But the problem sometimes you get these is that they're like kind of cut up, which is annoying, but better than nothing. And then I got a whole bag of these cosmic apples. I've been eating these a lot lately. Apples are approved, and they're not approved on keto. So I'm looking forward to having these apples every single day. They're so delish. Another thing that's kind of like traditionally not very low carb, but kind of low carb, are mushrooms. Because you can't really cook with oils or butters, I have a feeling that that might not be as delicious as I normally think they are. These aren't the brand that is recommended, but I think that they're similar as long as your dressing is like 10 calories or less, I think was the rule. I bought a couple of these. I don't know how good they are. I mean, they're made from like vinegar mostly, and lemon juice and poppy seeds. I feel like overall the ingredients are pretty clean, can't complain. So we'll see how that turns out. I also got a big thing of like cubed beef. I feel like this is going to be delish. Again, I wish I could like be throwing it with some like butter, but not this time. I got this Texas Roadhouse seasoning. It's got like cheddar cheese flavoring, garlic, cayenne pepper. I got a couple different Texas Roadhouse seasonings because basically seasonings are gonna be the be all and end all with this bad boy. There's a little bit of sugar in these, but not enough. I feel like you'd have to use a lot for it to be an issue, honestly. If you're freaking out about like the sugar, I mean, always avoid it if you can, but I feel like since we're having fruit, like it's not gonna kill anybody, you know what I mean? It's not keto, it's something different. I have some eggs. It doesn't say that you have to have egg whites, guys. I always go for the discount if I can, okay? So don't make fun of me, and don't make fun of my messy house. It doesn't say you have to eat egg whites, but that will be helpful because I love eggs. Shrimp is one of the options that you can have, and I feel like in a stir fry or something, this is gonna come in handy. This was also on sale. Okay, basically, this is all frozen veggies. It's It's either bell peppers, onions, or green beans. I got so much. I did get that I'm excited about because I love a pearl onion. So I'm excited just to roast those. I think it's gonna add a lot of flavor since we can't have like butter or anything. And I got beef broth and chicken broth since that's all you can cook with. I also got some pickles because that's a really yummy low carb and low fat snack. I love pickles. Frozen berries. And then I got these from my Ninja Creamy. I've used these before. I also got pineapple and pears, but it's no sugar added and it's packed in water. So it's basically artificially sweetened water, not even the juice from the fruit. So this is as close as to just like freezing some fruit as you can get. I know that you're allowed to have fruit, and peaches is one that you're allowed to have, which I desperately miss on keto. And I've done this before where I freeze it and put it in the Ninja Creamy and it turns into a sorbet. So I think this is going to be clutch for me during the week. I do have a video on my Instagram about that. So I got that in peaches, pineapples, and of course I got some just frozen berries to snack on, and some tuna, which I think I might put that dressing on since I can't use, and like some mustard, since I can't use mayo, which is going to be, guys, it's going to be so different for me. I'm a little afraid to try this one. Beef and eggs is easy. Spam and pickles was not easy, but you know, this will probably be easier than that. But we'll see how this turns out. I'm a little scared, but wish me luck. I've got peppers and onions literally just cooked in the chicken broth. And then I air fried some mushrooms and beef. It's more like 4.5 ounces of beef. It's only supposed to be 4, but listen, it's day 1 and I don't want to be under eating either because I feel like that's not good for your metabolism. So because I already have a little bit of mushrooms in here, I'm gonna put about half of this into here to eat with that. And then also an apple, and this is for dinner, technically second meal later. And then half of this I'm gonna reserve for 3 eggs. I think maybe you're only supposed to have 2, but listen, again, I don't wanna be under eating. I feel like that's a potential danger with this plan. So I'm gonna do 3. We can always tailor it back if things aren't moving, but I've seen other people eating 3, so I'm not that stressed about it. But I'm gonna take half of this, put some eggs in there, cook it all together. I also have 2 cauliflower like cakes cooking, then we'll eat with the eggs too. So really it's more like a little more than half, like 2/3 of us are going in here, and then I'll do 1/3 and then the cauliflower cakes with the eggs. And then I also have to eat some fruit, so I probably will eat some frozen berries on the way to my show. I'll eat this with those at dinner because I'm only doing the 10 o'clock show tonight, which is kind of tricky, right? Because I want to eat, but not so much that I'm stuffed for my show. But then it's really hard for me to just like do my show and then not eat after. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save my apple meant to be paired with this meal as like my in the car on the way home dessert. And that way, by the time I get home, it'll be like just time to go to bed and I'll be full. Now that's only doable even though I get home at midnight because I'm still doing my fast, but like it's already almost 5 and I haven't eaten yet today. I've been fasting for almost 18 hours, 17, 18 hours. So I'm already well beyond the time. So I'm thinking that since I have shows every day for the month of May almost, I'm gonna keep my window really late and then just fast until the evening time because I'm good not eating during the day. It's at night where I get tricked up. So as long as my window is still 8 hours and my fasted window is more than 16, it doesn't really matter when I stop, if that makes sense, as long as I put it off until the next time. So I'm gonna do that plan for today and I'll let you know how it worked out by the end of the day. Thank God for the fat and egg yolks, am I right? So I'm about to eat this, break my fast at 4:45. And then I put some tahini on 140 grams, which is 1 cup, which is what you're supposed to have. 3 cups of veggies, 1 cup of fruit with the 2 meals. So I'm gonna let that kind of like, they're frozen. So I'm gonna eat that on the way to work. This is just like, there's so much volume. There's very little fat. These aren't calorie dense meals, but they're high volume meals, which I'm not used to. So that'll be interesting. So we'll see.
1 day later.
I lost 1.4 pounds in a day. That's crazy. I'm basically making all of the same foods today that I did yesterday. It's kind of in a different form for my lunch-ish meal. I'm gonna get into like a egg bite form because I have to go to rehearsal. But yeah, I actually felt full all day. I didn't even really want to eat my apple on the way home from work. It's going to be tricky over the next week to see how schedule-wise this works out. I'm going to try and eat my last meal a little bit earlier today because I'm not doing the late show, hopefully barring any unforeseen circumstances. I'm not supposed to anyway. And then tomorrow we have 3 shows and I'm doing the first show, but we're there pretty much all day from like 3:30 to midnight. So slightly trickier, but I guess not really. Kind of the same schedule as today. But wow, yeah, 1.4. I feel really lean. I felt lean yesterday. I will say I liked how I felt eating yesterday. I didn't feel heavy or anything. And the biggest treat is these frozen berries that I put tahini on. It's like a sugar-free tahini that I bought. It was like a life-changing. It was so freaking good. So I feel really satisfied with that and the apple and everything. So I don't want to like add too many variables. I want to have like 2 days in a row of like kind of eating a food that clearly worked before I start adding things in. Like shirataki noodles, for example, are not on the list, but hearts of palm noodles are. And shirataki noodles are non-digestible. So I almost feel like those have got to be better. If anybody's eaten a shirataki noodle in the past, you know they're not digestible, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But I remember I was going to put them into a meat sauce that I made with fuller fat meat, even though I drained most of it. I'm still going to do it. I made the tomato sauce from scratch from real tomatoes, and that's allowed even though tomato sauce isn't, because usually tomato sauce has like other stuff in it. And there's no butter or oil in the tomato sauce. So I think I'm going to do that tomorrow, but I want to get 2 days in of just normal. But so far, so good. I came from already 1 day down, and it wasn't a slog. I thought it was going to be a lot harder, honestly. My little scramble after my rehearsal. You can't even see me. It's too bright. It's too bright to see me. But it's yummy. I'm excited. So most of my fasts every day were around 17 to 18 hours on average, even though it only has to be 16. But the go-to for the first few days was this steak and pepper situation. I also was meal prepping the shirataki noodles. I would put the steak and peppers in with the tomato sauce. That was really delicious, but it did sort of bloat me also. Zevia is the best when you want something sweet, but you can't eat yet when you're fasting. And also this Ninja Creamy recipe was a lifesaver. This day I mixed cauliflower rice with eggs and baked it down into the stock. It was really, really good. And I really like these cauliflower little cakes. I don't know if they're like 100% on plan, but we're a vibe. All right. It's day 5. I have my go-to eggs, peppers, onions, easy peasy. And for dinner, I made Brussels sprouts. There's some mushrooms on the bottom of this and some green beans. They're gonna defrost by the time I have to reheat this anyway. And some beef. And I got these sauces in, and gee, they are low-calorie sauces, but they have so much flavor, and the ingredients are all super clean. It's crazy how much flavor these guys bring for super clean ingredients. And they're awesome. Obviously, you have to honor the serving size to keep them low-cal, but basically anything like 15 calories or less is approved on this plan. So I'm gonna go for it. And I think that I'm trying to debate either buffalo blue cheese, spicy garlic parm, or the honey mustard with like the combo I have in here. Because damn, these look good. I don't know. But yeah, I'll link them down below. Either you can buy them I bought them on the TikTok shop because that was the best price. I think you can also find them on Amazon, but they were sold out on Amazon. So I'll have both links down below for you if you want to check them out. But not sponsored, I bought them with my own money, but geez Louise, are they good. I also feel like hot honey sriracha might, see, this is tricky. Too many choices. I tasted them all though. They're all so good. So this is just the peppers and onions and chicken broth like always, except I added a bunch of shredded cabbage. It was shredded so finely. It was called angel hair cabbage. It was so fire. It cooked down into this once I added the chicken. That was from the Al Pastor little kit, that taco kit. So fire. My favorite meal of the week. That was a wild week. It is now May 8th, which means I am 7 days and 1 full week down on this hyperketosis diet. And I really thought it was going to be harder than it actually ended up being. I know you guys are wanting to know the results, and I will say that they are relatively interesting to me. I ended up losing at my lowest, which was on the 6th. So 2 days ago was when I hit my lowest weight. And then the last 2 days, the 7th and 8th, I weighed in up a little bit, which I think is interesting. I'll talk about the things that I did that I think are responsible, but then again, I'm not too sure. But before I get into the weights and everything, I want to talk about my experience doing this diet. It was really interesting cooking without fat. That is something that is so conditioned in me for flavor, being able to snack on cheese or have dairy in my coffee. And I haven't been fasting in a long time, and having it be a daily thing as opposed to something I do maybe a couple of times a week, that was unusual. I think that having structure in my work environment, even if it varied a little bit, was helpful. But I really did find that the cooking in the broths ended up being fine. And as long as you have really good spices and seasonings, and I bought those flavored sauces that I didn't even really use to like the last couple of days, to be honest, which might be a contributing factor to the weight gain. I don't know, but I doubt it because the ingredients are super clean. I actually found this to be relatively easy. And it was kind of funny whenever you're doing something different to have the variety that even something strict brings can make it exciting. So the fact that I could have as much fruit as I was having, the fact that I could, have as much vegetables as I was having, the influence of like lots of mushrooms and Brussels sprouts, which would be fine on keto, but like more on the limited side just because they are a little bit heavier in carbs. That was really fascinating to me. Like having 2 apples a day was wild. And that sounds kind of crazy when you say it out loud, but if you've been doing keto for a long time, you know that fruits outside of berries aren't really the best. So let's get into my weight loss this week. In the first day, I lost 1.4 pounds, which is like crazy town. And I didn't feel that deprived. And I have never lost that much weight that quickly. And so I started to feel like maybe it was just water weight. I don't remember what I did vlogging wise, talking through the journey, but I've already shown you the food and everything. And then going from day 1 to day 2, I lost another 1.4. So for 2 days in a row, I lost 1.4 pounds, bringing me to 2.8 pounds in 2 days. Nearly 3 pounds in 2 days is wild. Okay. Then I had a little bit of a plateau from 3 to 4. So on day 3 to 4, I didn't lose anything. It was exactly the same. And then from day 4 to day 5, I went up 0.2. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this was water weight of some sort. Even though I was eating keto prior, which would mean that there wasn't water weight, but there was some sort of shift, right, happening in those first 2 days because I was stagnant for the 3 days. But then I hit my all-time low with the biggest weight change from day 5 to day 6. I lost 1.8 pounds, which was the biggest day-to-day shift. And that was crazy. And I hadn't been the weight that I was at that time in a few months. So I was like, okay, I'm digging this. I haven't been this weight since February, so I'll take that. And then I weighed in yesterday, I was up, and today I was up about the same number, up 1.2. So the overall loss for the week was 3.4, which I think in a week is significant. Your goal is to lose 0.5 to 2 pounds a week on average over the course of any cut. So that does put me ahead of schedule, but it just did kind of bug me, as it would for anyone, that I didn't remain at my goal. But I know that if I stick with this, just the same way that if you stick with anything, it will be an overall downward trajectory. So if I were to factor in what I was at my lowest, after 5 days, I lost 4.2 pounds in 5 days, which to me is wild. So it depends on how you look at it, right? I'm going to continue on with this, but there's a few things that I noticed. Whenever I incorporated shiitake noodles, which in my mind are non-digestible, basically just made of fiber. If you go to the bathroom, you can see them in your stool, not to be TMI, but it is what it is. In my head, there's no way that could have hurt. But every time I had that, I was up a little or I stayed stagnant. Conversely, could have nothing to do with the shirataki noodles and everything to do with what I was eating it with. I was eating a leftover low carb meat sauce that might have had a little too much fat in it. I'm not entirely sure. It was hard to measure the protein in that sauce because of the tomatoes and everything. So it could have been the sauce and not the shirataki noodles. I still have one more bag of those that I'm going to incorporate sometime, but I will utilize them in a different way and see if it's really the noodles or the thing that I was pairing the noodles with. Additionally, I did utilize cottage cheese. It was a low-fat cottage cheese and not a non-fat cottage cheese. I tend to get kind of skeeved out by non-fat any sort of dairy, to be honest with you. It tends to have a lot of additives and fillers that I don't like. So maybe utilizing cottage cheese in my little Ninja Creamy recipes could have been a factor. Not entirely sure. Those were also some of the same days as the shirataki noodles, so maybe too many variables there. I did find that the days that I ate berries, just plain with a little sugar-free tahini on it. It's not really tahini, it's like a tahini sugar-free company. I'll put that down below as well. I found when I did that and an apple, I did better than the days that I utilized the Ninja Creamy recipes. Again, it's going to take some experimentation to see if that's just coincidental. I did, however, feel that the meals were satisfying. And in fact, with my schedule with the fasting window, it was kind of hard to eat all the food, to be honest with you. There were days that I felt hungrier than others, but this seems to be very easy. Do I think this is sustainable? If you're a single person, maybe, but I haven't gone out to eat. I don't know how that would even be possible on this diet. I don't see it being sustainable in that avenue. And for that reason, I feel like keto is always going to be my go-to. But at my lowest, 4.2 in 5 days, and overall 3.4 for the week. I'm curious to see how week 2 is going to, pan out for me. But we're going to keep on this journey for another week. Today is Thursday. I do have a Mother's Day outing on Sunday where I will be going to Din Tai Fung, one of my favorite restaurants. So I will be breaking the diet for one day. So it'll be curious to see what happens with that. I really hope that it doesn't just undo everything, but that's all part of the process, right? And yeah, so make sure you're subscribed, comment down below, like this video if you are interested in this journey or you found this video in particular helpful. Also, if you are interested in working with me as your coach, I specialize in ending the cycle of yo-yo dieting for good, and I teach you everything that you don't realize that you don't know about food in my one-on-one coachings. I have so many highlights on my Instagram of client love, client results that you can feel free to pour through. There's so many in there. I would love to work with you. So feel free to email me if you are interested in that. Again, all the information will be down below. And I guess I'll see you next week to see where this journey takes us. See you next time. Bye.